Well, good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. Glad to have you along with us. Glad to be back in the studio after being gone last week because I was out deer hunting. Because 1 week ago today was the opening day of the Michigan firearm deer season, and I was a little bit tied up. Well, I'm back here in the studio now, and so glad to have you along with us. How's your deer season going so far? I haven't shot one yet. Haven't had the right deer in front of me yet. Hey, Randy, good morning. How are you? Charles, thanks for joining us over on YouTube. How are you this morning? Framing of my shot looks a little bit different this morning. Trying something different, not intentionally. Mike, good morning. How are you, buddy? Mike, will we see you at Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack in West Branch on December 6th? Reservations required 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. We are not filled up yet, but we're getting pretty close. Mad Jack, how you doing, buddy? Very slow for me. Yeah, slow for me as well. Tommy's out in the blind this morning. How's the movement this morning, Tommy? I've been very, very slow. Haven't been seeing much at all. Haven't been, but the people around us are baiting, and that's drawing the deer away from our property. Bruce, good morning. Cliff, how are you, buddy? I really think that baiting should be allowed in the Lower Peninsula. Tommy says very slow. Very slow. Well, now we are getting into the second week of deer camp, right? Mike leaving for Arizona next Monday. Hunting been very slow. Oh, you're leaving and you're going to be down there for the whole winter, right? Mike, will you be back in time for our Trinity Monitor wild game dinner and auction? That's the first Saturday in March. Will you be back? Josh Mapes. I tell you what, Josh. Anyway, Josh, good morning. How are you? Your stories, your posts, your pictures that you share with me here on the page that I can share with our friends are wonderful. That story of your daughter was a beautiful, beautiful story. And I have a feeling you're in the running to win this month's gift certificate from the Forward Corporation, the Forward Fuels Tradition campaign. Hey, Cap, right back at you. Happy early Thanksgiving to you as well. Tommy, let me see what you're saying here. Tommy says, rattling this morning, trying to get some action. You got to get something going, right? I can relate, Tommy. Eric's in the deer blind this morning as well. Charles emailed a picture of my grandpa who shot a big 7-point opening day. Have I posted that yet, Charles? If not, I will get to it. If you sent it to me a long time ago, please send it to me again because I've been inundated with pictures. Inundated in a good way. Craig, good morning, my friend. How are you, buddy? Mike says we will be back for the Trinity event for sure. Craig, are you going to join us? You're going to join us in West Branch for Wednesday Night Live, right? Hey, Brent, good morning. How are you, buddy? Happy Thanksgiving to you, Jeff. Good morning, James. Good morning, Brad. Brandon says the jigging action on the Detroit River's end very good, 30 to 40 feet of water between the Ambassador to Gordie Howe bridges. Yeah, I'm Brandon, is this something new this year, this fall bite? I mean, I know it's not new, but are people discovering it this year? Because I haven't seen the attention to it in previous years that I'm seeing this year. Josh, taking a lot of deer, watching my kids out there beats everything. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful, Josh? Johnny Bowler, my good friend. Johnny, I feel like I haven't talked to you very much, Johnny, lately. Johnny, and I apologize for that. How you doing, buddy? Johnny the Bear Whisperer. I'm hoping Johnny comes down for our Trinity Monitor dinner. Love to see you at Wednesday Night Live too, Johnny, but I know it's a long drive just for a Wednesday Night Live. Lee, good morning. How are you? Mike Smith. Deer season, some of the best walleye fishing out there on Lake Erie. James told me you were down on Lake Erie for a week or two. How's it going, Mike? Scott, good morning. Busy and hunting in Missouri. How did your Missouri trip go? And how are you? And how's the family? Happy Thanksgiving to you, Scott. Brandon, it's been very busy this year. Love seeing it. The more the merrier. Brad, I'm on doe patrol for the rest of the season. Got a 9-point in bow and an 8 opening morning. I'm on doe patrol all season. My whole goal this season is to shoot a Michigan doe, and I'm having a hell of a time doing it. The only doe I have had a shot at was during rifle season. This was last Friday, and she was just over the property line, just over on the neighbor's property. But here's what's going on around us. Our neighbors are baiting, and that's drawing all the deer away from our property. And I will tell you this. I think that baiting for whitetails should be allowed in the Lower Peninsula. I know, but I'm no biologist, and I know the biologists say that they don't want to do it because of the concern over CWD. If you want people to kill deer in Michigan, well, let me back up. It is very obvious that the baiting law cannot be enforced in the Lower Peninsula. It's obvious. Anybody who wants to bait is baiting. I'm not. I want to bait, but I can't afford it. Not financially, but I can't afford professionally to get a ticket for hunting over bait. So I won't do it. But I think it's ridiculous to have a law on the books that obviously cannot be enforced. So take it off the books. If you can't enforce a law, then get rid of it. Sound science, Robert says. Johnny's out chasing deer. Bill Hoffman, while working. What's your latest gig there, Bill? What are you doing now? Tell me more. Tell me more. Social media people rehashing the Ron Pola buck. Yeah, because I think it was 25 years last week. And there is a Mitch Ron Pola Facebook page that is very, very busy. Yeah, they're talking about it a lot. Mad Jack says he liked your story, Josh. Thank you, Johnny. Johnny says I'll be at the Trinity dinner for sure. And of course, have another bear hunt to donate. Johnny, I appreciate that very much. Morning, David. Good morning, Randy. Good morning, Rachel. How are you? Brad says, I have proof that deer touch noses without bait. You are at U of M, Flint. That's what made me think that. Okay. Josh agrees on baiting. I think eventually they'll figure out they are fighting a losing battle. Every gas station, every store carries bait. It's all getting sold. Exactly. Bill Hoffman, let me ask you this, Bill, from your perspective as an avid outdoorsman and a law enforcement officer, what are your thoughts on having a law on the books that obviously cannot be enforced? The Michigan Lower Peninsula bait law. Mike Smith down on Lake Erie, the evening bite, been incredible, averaging 30 fish in 2 hours the last few nights. Just can't find that 13-pounder. You're going to get him. I mean, her. Oh, Rachel's going to be with us at the Trinity dinner. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that very much. All right, Johnny, have a good day. Jake, good morning. How are you? Sam, good morning. How are you, buddy? Chuck, checking in from Johannesburg. Michigan or Africa? Because I've been to both. Brad, good morning. Scott, doe permits to $10 and allow private landowners the chance to use them for invited guests or doe control on their property. Bring back baiting. According to Dr. Mike Miller and many more experts, CWD has no negative impact on the deer population. There are people who would argue that, but I think baiting should be allowed for whitetails in Michigan's Lower Peninsula. If you want people to kill deer, like in our situation right now, before the season started, we had a lot of deer around because we've got some food plots in there. So, I mean, we're doing everything we can, right? We had deer around. Then the firearm season fires up and you got a lot of the people around us, not all of them, but many of the people around us are now baiting and it's drawing the deer off our property. If you want us to kill deer, let us bait. I've killed deer over bait and I've killed deer not over bait. I think it's much more enjoyable to kill deer without baiting. But if you get into a situation like we're in, without some bait around, we're not going to see deer. And I just think, here's what Bill says. Let me see what Bill says. Wasn't Chad Stewart to make baiting legal? Yes. Eric Long. Good morning, Eric. How are you? Listen, Eric, I'll ask you the same question. Eric, from your perspective as a law enforcement officer, and I'm talking about the bait law in the Lower Peninsula, It appears very clear to me that the DNR cannot enforce the bait ban in the Lower Peninsula. What are your thoughts on having a law on the books that cannot be enforced? I'll go to another law enforcement officer, Bill Hoffman. Bill says the bait law can be enforced and is if you read the weekly DNR logs. Baiting can't be stopped, but it can be enforced. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Bill. I appreciate it. Baiting can't be stopped, but it can be enforced. Not all, thank you, Bill, laws are enforceable if that's like speeding. Okay, I got you. I got you. It can't be stopped. Thank you. 35,000 unbroken acres with bait and not a deer in 5 days. Baiting gives the animal a reason to expose themselves and stand still. This allows for better identification and more ethical and clean shots. Linda, I'm glad you chimed in here. COs I've talked with tell me they're only looking for and going after people with big bait piles, literally a dump truck full, and there are people like that out there. I saw one of those piles. I get it, Linda. That's the consensus I'm getting too. But people like you and me, I I couldn't put 100 pounds of corn out there and spread it over, an area. It would bring the deer in, but I can't afford getting a ticket over it. Ross Elliott, my good friend, how are you, buddy? I know you tried to get in touch with me the other day. I hope everything is good with you. Let's talk. Captain Jim says all deer around my property have gone nocturnal. A lot of human scent. Yeah, we're seeing that too. The deer we are seeing in our food plots on camera are all after dark now. Honestly, I think the odds, and this is a sad thing. I think the odds of me killing a doe this year are getting very, very slim. Now I have had deer in front of me. Um, if I wanted to shoot a spike, I've had a couple of spikes in front of me, a lot of fawns, but that big old mature doe that I'm looking for has not presented a shot for me, either in firearm season or archery season. Now, my son James did shoot a monster doe opening morning. What do I mean by monster doe? 120 pounds on a scale dressed. Jim, I should ask you that too, as a former law enforcement. Eric says he's correct. They do limited enforcement, but overall it's impossible to stop. Thank you guys for making me realize I was using the wrong phrasing. It can be enforced, but not to the level of stopping it. Thank you for that, guys. I appreciate it. Also, thank you for your service, guys. As the son of a lifelong cop, I appreciate what you guys are doing. Tommy says, stay at it. The late doe season will pay off in the food plots. I'm hoping so, Tommy. I want a big doe. Chad, good morning. How are you? Dave, the deer are active along the river bottoms this morning. Saw 3 so far while pulling plugs. Nocturnal until 8, then 25 or 30 to the field with a spotlight. So they're there. They are there. Still have black powder in late bow season. And isn't there black powder? That's a misnomer these days, isn't it? The muzzleloader season and then the late bow season. And isn't there as well, and I should keep better track of these, but there are so many seasons I can't. Isn't there also a late firearm doe season in some parts of the state? Somebody help me out there. That is a great doe, 120 pounds dressed, and it was on a scale. Good morning, John. 16 and 63 on this day was getting my driver's license test with a police officer listening to the radio news about JFK being assassinated. Truly historic day. Wow. Yeah, John, absolutely. Bernie checking in from the deer blind. The weather has not been great. Chad's rubbing it in. He's tagged out with his Michigan buck tags now into doe hunting with him at Bear Recurve. Oh, that's so cool. So cool hunting with a recurve. I have so much respect. Speaking of tools to hunt with, I made a post about this and got a lot of response. I love old guns. I think the craftsmanship, the history, the tradition, the stories these old guns have is wonderful. But I'm also fascinated by the use of AR style rifles to hunt with. If I had my dad's old 30-06, I would certainly be tempted to pick it up and use it, but I don't. So what am I using? A Brenton AR-15 in 350 Legend. And I find it interesting that when I made this post, so many hunters said there's no reason to take an AR in the woods. That is bull. Really? An AR style hunting rifle loaded with 5 rounds? It looks scary. Have you looked in a mirror? Maybe you look scary too. I don't know. I do. Where are we at here? Where are we at? Two different blinds, 15 miles apart in Iron Mountain. What about muzzleloader season, extended firearms? I don't know. The extended muzzleloader season doesn't appeal to me at all because I don't. Is muzzleloader season these days? Do you have to use a muzzleloader, or can you use a 350 or a 450? And what about the extended doe season? That's what I want to know about. What about the extend? Isn't there a late doe season where I could use that Brenton 350 Legend? Morning, John. How are you? Hey, look who's in here, Charlie. I brought some snacks, Charlie. I brought a lot of snacks. We are flush with Michigan brand snacks this morning.
It's Thanksgiving early.
Yeah, it is. This is my early Thanksgiving to you. And this is, Charlie, smoked turkey. This is our Thanksgiving treat. It's smoked turkey from Michigan brand. Let me get rid of that. There we go. Smoked turkey. This is my Thanksgiving feast for Charlie Rude. Michigan brand smoked turkey. But you got to share a piece with me, Charlie. Okay. Mostly no baiting means you're yeah. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Corey. 32 special. It's great. If I had one, I would. Yeah, isn't that something? Chad uses a good old Lansing Brenton AR style. I might have to take you up on that, Scott. BS what? About the ARs in the woods? Bill uses his grandma's listen, if I had an old, I don't know if I'd use it or not. I respect him, but like Randy's saying, AR is just another semi-automatic rifle. The Remington 30-06 my dad used to hunt with was a semi-automatic rifle. My 350 Legend from Brenton, the AR style rifle, is just a semi-automatic rifle. So why do people get so weirded out about it? Sam says loves his 450, wouldn't trade it. Thank you. Jim says an AR is just a platform. Pull the stock off and it looks like a hunting rifle. Yes, Corey, I agree. There are, thank you, Tyler. There is a late antlerless firearm season. Just a test. Morning, Dave. Rick. Tommy. All right, I've got to, I got a couple minutes here. Let me tell you who's coming up on the show here. This week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, we're going to kick off with Gabe Van Warmer. You know Gabe. He's a contributor to Michigan Outdoors. He's the video guy for Fishing 411 TV. He's an avid hunter. He's a firearms expert. He's also a big AR-style guy. Then in hour number 2, Joe Marion talks about cold water safety. I'm talking not just ice fishing, but also, you know, you fish in the Detroit River, Lake St. Clair right now. That water's cold. You don't want to fall in. What do you do if you do? Nick Green of MUCC checks in from the duck blind. Oh, here, I should have brought this up earlier, and I don't even know if we got time now. I need a question for this week's Ask Avery segment. 2 minutes. I need a question for this week's Ask Avery segment. I should have set this up earlier. I thought I did, but it fell through. So give me a question right now that I can answer directly for this week's Ask Avery segment, please. December 11th, January 1st, private land only. That's me. All right, give me a question. This week's Ask Avery. And then in our third hour, We're talking with Joe, best buck pole in Michigan. I think it might have been at the Rapid River Knife Works shop last Saturday. Joe Velsinki of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association, then Chef Dixie Dave Miner. Also, we're still taking reservations for our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack. Call 989-343-0892. Okay. No, I said, oh, Bill. The question is, why won't the DNR admit they were wrong about baiting? They're too far into it now to come back and say that baiting is okay. They can't do it at this point. Uncle Johnny, how are you? Pop-up lines on state land. Land, can you leave them up overnight? I don't know.
30 seconds.
Come on, questions that I can answer, Bill. Well, your population numbers. I don't have these. Darn it, guys. You're asking good questions, but questions I can't answer right off the top of my head.
15 seconds.
Looks like you're not going to give me one either. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate your help this morning for bailing me out. All good questions, but I don't know the answer to them right off the top. And see, now I got to go.
3, 2,
Oh, you guys.
last round.
A simple, basic, easy question that you know I will have right in my mind that I don't have to look up. Scott, your question about deer carcasses. I'm still looking at your questions. It's for lunch. That one I can answer. Michigan brand. All right. I still need your help. Best opening rifle story. Can you hunt from your house? Yes. Yes, Corey. That is the one. Thank you. Can you hunt from your house? Thank you, Corey Phillips. Got to go, guys. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us. How's your deer season going yet? How many times have you heard this question? Did you get your buck? Did you get your deer? If I had $1 for every time somebody'd ask me that, I bet I'd have $100. And the answer is no, thank you. No. I haven't even had a shot at a deer that I would be interested in taking here in Michigan. This goes for the archery season as well as the gun season. And I've been hunting a fair amount too. But I have not had a shot at a deer that I want to take. Now, my goal for this season here in Michigan was to shoot a big, mature Michigan doe. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not trying to shoot a big buck. I'm not trying to shoot a mature buck. I'm not trying to shoot a trophy buck. I just want to shoot a big doe. The only big doe I've had a chance to shoot was last Friday from my tree stand with my 350 Legend in my hands, and she was across the fence. She was across the property line. I could have shot a couple of spikes. I've had a lot of fawns around me, but I honestly, I haven't had a shot at a big old doe. Now, early in the season, because we have some lease property and we put food plots out there, early in the season, we were seeing quite a few deer during daylight hours. The cameras were showing us that. I never had one in front of me while I was hunting. You know, it was when I was here, they were over there and vice versa type thing. You know how that goes. But now the activity is just absolutely dried up. Now, a couple of reasons for this, right? It is the second week of firearm season now, and they know they're being hunted, and they're going to go nocturnal, and they have. The other big reason, I suspect, is that, I'll be generous here, some of the people around us, I suspect, are using bait. And so that's drawing the deer from our property over to their properties. I don't know what to think of this whole bait ban in the Lower Peninsula here in Michigan. I understand why it's in place. concern over the spread of CWD, chronic wasting disease, and the thought that nose-to-nose contact can spread CWD. Nose-to-nose contact under an apple tree can spread CWD. Nose-to-nose contact in a food plot can spread CWD. And I'm no biologist, and I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be an expert. So let me tell you my anecdotal observations and my thoughts on that. It appears very clear to me that baiting cannot be stopped in the lower peninsula with the resources that the DNR has. There simply are not enough officers. There are simply not enough wardens in the field to go out and start enforcing or not trying to get all of the people who are baiting. I was corrected on this term earlier. I said it appears clear to me you can't enforce the bait law. And I had a couple of law enforcement officers say, well, you're using the wrong term, Avery. The bait laws are being enforced, but they're not being enforced to the level of stopping baiting. And I get that. That makes complete sense what you're saying there. I question having a law on the books that cannot be enforced to the level of trying to reach the desire, and that is to keep people from baiting. In our case, I know, well, okay, I have no problem with using bait. I've killed deer over bait. I've killed deer without bait. I find it infinitely more enjoyable hunting without bait, but in some situations, I think it's necessary to steer. I think I'm in that situation right now. So even though I'm not convinced that baiting is a negative impact on our Michigan deer herd, and I'm convinced that if I was to use bait, I would be able to kill my big doe, I'm not going to do it because I can't afford to. Not financially, but professionally. I cannot afford to be sitting over bait and have a conservation officer walk up and write me a ticket. And I'm not going to do it. I will not. But boy, I wish we could. I really wish we could. They say, well, we want you to harvest more does. Let me hunt over bait. I'll take 2 or 3 does for you this season yet. My son James, opening morning, shot a monster doe on our lease property. 120 pounds dressed out. That's a big deer. When we're looking at that thing, I'm thinking, man, I'm glad he's a young guy here to drag that thing out, because that's bigger than a lot of people bucks that they ever shoot. 120 pounds dressed. In fact, he entered it in a local buck poll. I think it's still the biggest doe shot so far. But we were out there opening morning. I digress here. We did get a chance to get out there as a family opening morning, and it was wonderful. My son James, granddaughter Addison. James, the only one who saw a deer, that doe, and he shot her. No, actually I did. I saw 2 does and a fawn, but I couldn't get a shot at them because they were there and gone. But it was nice to be out there. I have been hunting from the ground. My beloved Wraith 270 see-through ground blinds from Primal. Also tree stands. I still can't quite get used to the concept of being up in a tree with a gun in my hands and doing it legally, because for so many years, here's a good example. For so many years, it was illegal to sit in a tree stand with a rifle and hunt deer in Michigan. And then suddenly, with some legislative action or somebody signed something, it was suddenly legal. So we took something that was illegal and made it legal. Boom. One fell swoop. I feel like we could do the same thing with baiting. It's illegal. It's illegal. Well, all you got to do is say it's not illegal, and it's not. Anyway, I heard a story about opening day, a hunter in northern Michigan who fell out of a tree stand. 60-year-old guy, 61-year-old guy, fell out of a tree stand. What a shame. What a shame. I'm of the mindset that every tree stand fall could be prevented. I mean, even catastrophic things where your tree stand falls out from underneath you. If you would just wear a full body harness and have a lifeline attached to the tree above your stand, so you hook into that thing when you leave the ground, you're attached to that line all the way up the entire time that you're hunting and all the way back down. Seems pretty simple to me. AR style rifles. I was out there. I've been out there this season with my Brenton 350 Legend, Brenton USA, Michigan made gun, Michigan company, but it's an AR style rifle. And I got looking at the guns that we had out there opening morning. I had an AR. My son James had an AR. My granddaughter had an AR. And I took a picture of all three of those guns leaned up next to a tree. And I put a post on my Facebook page. I said, look, I love old guns. I love the craftsmanship of old guns. I love the tradition of the old guns. I love the stories. I love the history. And if I had an old gun that had been passed down to me in my family, I would likely use it, but I don't. So instead, I'm using one of the new modern tools. And I was surprised at the comments that came from fellow hunters about how dare you take that evil weapon into the whitetail woods. And it really bothered me. My Brenton 350 Legend is a semi-automatic rifle with a limited number of rounds in the magazine. If I was to use a bolt action rifle or my dad's old 30-06 Remington semi-auto, same thing. It's a semi-auto gun with a limited number of rounds in the magazine. How is it any different? But people are so weirded out about, the tools we use for hunting these days. Wednesday Night Live coming up December 6th. We're going to be at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. Call for reservations 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. We'll be giving away some good prizes. We will be joined by some good friends. I am not buying your dinner that day. You got to buy your own dinner, but there is no cost to come to the event. We do need reservations, though, to know how many people will be there. 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. Don't forget about the hashtag Forward Fuels Tradition as you post pictures of your young hunter in the woods this fall. Once a month, we're going to draw a winner for that. And you'll get a gift card to the Forward convenience stores. So if you got a kid who's out there hunting or fishing this fall, post their picture, use the hashtag Forward Fuels Tradition. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, Gabe Van Warmer joins me. You know Gabe. You know him from Michigan Outdoors TV. You know him from Fishing 411 TV. He's an avid outdoorsman, expert hunter. We'll talk about hunting the late season. We'll talk about the use of ARs in the whitetail woods. In the second hour, Joe Marion on cold water safety, how to stay safe on the ice, how to stay safe while you're hunting and fishing around cold water. Nick Green from MUCC checks in, speaking of cold water, from the Duck Blind. This week's Ask Avery question, can you hunt from your house? And in our third hour, we're talking trapping with Joe Velsinki of the Michigan Trappers and Predator Callers Association. And, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner as well. Yeah, I saw you sneak in there. How you doing, buddy? Okay, Corey, thank you for sending me the question we're going to use. Can you hunt from your house? The answer is yes. You can give yourself permission to hunt from your house. You could go to your upstairs bedroom, lean a rifle out the window, and shoot a deer in the backyard. The DNR doesn't promote that, but you can, because you can give yourself permission to violate the safety zone, which is 450 feet. All right, my friends, have a good day. I'll be back here tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. If I don't talk to you tonight, have a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. And we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving early, Charlie and I, with our turkey dinner, our Michigan brand smoked turkey. All right, my friends, have a great day.